Hello and welcome to I Heard It on a Podcast, our little corner of the Wild West. My name is Riley.
And my name is Isaiah, and today we're talking about one of the things I hate most in the world, and that's running.
Running
Yeah,
is one of the things
I
you hate most
hate
in the
running.
world.
Running is the worst. You get shin splints, and you get like a side stitch, and your knees hurt. Maybe this is just me.
I mean,
But
those things do happen the first few times you run, but just like any exercise, you got to like work up to the pinnacle.
this is also going to sound really lazy, but I don't like it when my heart beats that fast.
So you don't do cardio?
I do cardio, but not like
More like zone 2 cardio.
or like short bursts of high intensity, but not like a long time of my heart just like pounding, I don't like when you like start to get the like itchy throat from breathing and you're like you can feel your heartbeat in your eyes and you're like sweaty and I'm not about that.
The way you describe it is horrible.
Uh-huh.
So it sounds like the worst thing that you could ever do
Yep.
is take part in the Sri Chinmoy self-transcendence 3,100-mile race.
Yes, that sounds like death.
So that was a lot of words I just said. Let's break it down. Sri Chinmoy is this guy that we're going to come back to, but he started this race. In 1996, he created a foot race, a running race that is 2,700 miles long. And then the next year that year at the award ceremony, he said, that was too easy. Let's make it 3,100 miles. So it's a race that happens every year over the course of like 2 months, June through July and August in Queens, New York City. And the worst part about it is that it is 5,600 laps around one block.
Because Queens isn't 3,100 miles long.
No, America is barely 3,100 miles long. So the way I rationalized this to myself was planning a race is kind of hard. You have to get aid stations and volunteers, and you have to get approval from the city to like block off that part of the street and all that stuff. You have to have it over the whole length of the race. So if you're planning a marathon, you need like 10 different aid stations and you need to have approval to run and block 26 miles of streets in your town. So that sounds like a logistical nightmare to plan to do that for 3,100 miles worth of distance.
Seriously.
Like if you ran from Seattle to Miami, that would be impossible to like coordinate closing all the streets at the right time and getting people bathrooms when they need them and stuff like that.
I think the solution would be you just have the racers sign a waiver that says you're not going to do anything for them and they just like run. And then is it even a real race at that point?
Potentially, but I don't think anyone would make it.
No.
People barely make it through this thing, 3,100 miles. So yeah, it's around kind of like 1.5 blocks. Part of it is a school in Queens. By the way, we are completely ripping off Half as Interesting. Sorry. I forget your name. Sam. Sorry,
Recorder
Sam.
is interesting. If you want to sponsor us.
But we like Colorado too, so it's all good. Anyway, it's a long race. Would there be anything in the whole wide world that could convince you to partake in this?
I mean, I don't know, because anything that I would want, I wouldn't get to enjoy because I'd be dead.
What if, okay, so there is a 50-something day limit, 52-day limit to complete this race.
How many miles is that a day?
59.62 miles every day.
No.
On average. You're allowed to run from 6 a.m. to midnight, but they close the course between midnight and 6 a.m., partly to require people to get at least a little bit of sleep.
That's like 2 marathons, basically. And like a good marathon time is what, like 4 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a good like regular person's time is 4 hours.
So if you're running at marathon pace for 8 hours for 59 days.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm sure that it's more than 8 hours. I bet they spend like 12 hours a day because
when do you eat?
So that's part of the thing is they do provide like the meals and a place to sleep on like one of the corners, or maybe they like have, I think they like get one of the parking lots, and that's part of why it happens around one city block, is because they reserve this parking lot for 2 months, and then they just set up kind of like a temporary kitchen there, and there's volunteers there making food all the time, handing out water, getting more water, because think of how much water you're going to drink,
Seriously.
and just kind of like supporting the runners. I believe this year, the one that just finished in 2023, there were 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 13 or 14 runners, and only 6 of them finished. But tantalizingly, all of them ran more than 2,000 miles.
Dang.
So more than half of the field had to stop more than halfway through, probably
Dang.
because of injuries or
Seriously.
a serious medical condition. There's one person who ran 30,031 miles. So they were literally 70 miles away from
30,000?
Sorry, 3,000.
I was like, dang.
3,031 miles. So they were 70 miles away from finishing. They'd probably been running for 55 days, 50 days. And they probably like tore a ligament.
Seriously.
Or had serious like health problems otherwise. Because why else would you stop after running that far? You're literally like one day away from finishing.
Yeah, you have to just like push through it at that point.
I would have said like, drag me, like,
Right.
or like I'll pull on my hands and just army crawl,
like splint my leg and put morphine in it. I'm gonna keep going.
Seriously. There are people who do this more than once, but maybe unsurprisingly, the best runners are from like middle European countries or East Asian countries. I don't know what it is, but like the best runners this year were from Taipei, Taiwan, Russia, and Poland, and Italy. So I don't know, maybe it's like a thing to run ultra marathons in that part of the world.
Maybe it's because it's in places that like care about their citizens and they can get 60 days of time off of like work or whatever. And maybe more people would do it if they could have, 2 months free.
Yeah. I'm sure that I would never be able to do this with my body the way it is, but if I could, this is something I could potentially see myself flirting with. It's crazy though. There's no race even near this long. Like
seriously.
It is like officially the longest race on the planet.
When you like run in like running shoes, there's only like a specific amount of miles you can usually like put on shoes, like they wear out. So do you have to like bring multiple pairs of shoes?
Yeah, generally a pair of shoes is good for like 300 to 500 miles. So
you go through like 7 pairs of shoes
at least probably more like 10 or more.
Dang.
Yeah, and so yeah, shoes, you probably like literally like wear away clothing, the friction between your like arms and legs.
Right.
And I mean, during a race, I don't even know what the strategy is for something like this, because normally you hydrate really well and like carb load and stay up on your like electrolytes, and then you deplete all those things while you run, and then you refuel when you're done.
Right.
So I guess you have to just simultaneously like load up and refuel every night.
Like your life is just running at that point.
Absolutely.
Basically.
There's nothing else that you can do. A lot of people don't even finish. Maybe that's part of the reason that some of those people only got like 2/3 of the way through, is because they just ran out of time.
Yeah.
The race is only 52 days long. So you might be asking yourself, why does this even exist? What is the purpose? What is the original intent? Well, it's called the Sri Chinmoy self-transcendence race. So the idea is that by pushing your body beyond what you can even fathom is possible and achieving that, you ascend you feel some sort of transcendence.
Hmm.
You
Like
go
transcending
beyond.
to heaven as you die.
Potentially. I bet you they would stop you before you actually died. But the idea is that I don't know if the founder of this is Buddhist, but it feels kind of Buddhist to me, of the idea that like you shouldn't try to run away from pain. Pain is something that can be
Overcome.
overcome. Yeah. And well, one way to do that, I guess, is to just run until your body collapses. But when it does, you maybe will have achieved some sort of self transcendence.
Something tells me that like Buddha didn't run based on like how he looked, you know? I
Well,
don't know if this is
the Buddha probably did, but a Buddha might not.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about Buddhism to have this conversation right now. But I believe this guy, Sri Chinmoy, completed it at least once in his life. And
You'd have to, because like otherwise it's like, hey, I made a race, you gotta run 10,000 miles. Go. Have fun.
well, I mean, people voluntarily sign up for this. It's probably thousands of dollars too, because you're basically getting like room and board for 2 months as
Right.
part of your race registration.
And you have to take 2 months off of working.
Yeah.
And
But if you're a professional runner,
sure.
that is your
Is
work.
there like a prize, or is it just transcendence is the prize?
The prize is usually like a small medal or what else did it say? A DVD or a t-shirt.
So I can get like something that I can't even watch.
No, if you are an actual professional runner, you can make a living winning races.
Sure. Like with sponsorships or
And with sponsorships, just like any athlete. But I don't think that a professional runner who like earns their money by running well would do this.
no.
I think this is the kind of thing that like unreversibly damages your body.
Yeah, it sounds grueling.
And like you can't recover
Right.
from this. Like you just need like new knees at the
Your
end of this
cartilage
race.
is just like burnt out.
Yeah. I mean, there might be some people who are like built different and they have like a perfect body type for this. But if I did this, A, I would never be able to do it. B, it would take me years to train for it. And C, if I were able to complete it, I seriously think that like I would need to replace every joint below my arms afterwards, or just never walk again.
Which sounds totally worth it to me.
I mean, I have run in my life and I'm trying to get back into it, but I'm only 26 and I already feel like the damage that running has had on my knees. I can't imagine doing this race, training for this race, and then performing it.
Do you think you could do like a 3,100 mile like bicycle race?
Yeah, that would probably take like what, a fourth of the time?
Yeah.
It would maybe be like 2 or 3 weeks.
Because I think like 100 miles a day is reasonable on a bike.
If you're well trained.
Yeah, even maybe more.
And depending on the terrain. I
Yeah.
mean, I would
If you're
I
going
would
around
go-
a block in Queens.
I would go crazy biking around. Like running is slightly slow enough. Although I hate treadmills because they're boring. And so if you just like ran around the same block for 2 months, that would probably be one of the hardest parts, is just like how horribly boring it must be. Plus you're running on concrete, which is not even very good.
Right. And like around a school. So you just have to like
Right. Every day at like 3:30, you have to dodge a
dodging
bunch of middle
kids.
schoolers.
This just does not sound fun. This basically sounds like if I like was having a nightmare, what would be in my nightmare, you know?
Yeah. It's pretty wild that something like this even exists. I mean, we as humans are always trying to push the boundary and see what the limit of the human body is.
Mhm.
And people complete this. 6 people completed this year, including the new world record for this race. But it still takes them like the world record is 45 days,
Right.
plus some hours. So people can do it, but the question is like, did you achieve enough transcendence for it to be worth it? Because you only lost money and you only lost time and you only lost
Your knees.
your knees. So is the transcendence worth it?
It's got to be some good transcendence.
I mean, if you could like actually transcend like pain and grief and anger and sorrow in the world by doing this race, probably more people would do it. I think that there's some people out there who would be willing to put in the work to never feel those things again.
I wouldn't feel them because I'm dead.
Keep making the same joke.
Because I would
it's
literally die.
Well, I think that your body stops you before you, most people, I think your body like naturally stops you and says like, no, these muscles just aren't going to work anymore.
Yeah.
It's either that or actually die. And I think your body just kind of says like, nope, we're done.
How would you actually die from running though? Would it be like starvation or like cardiac problems? I think it would probably be cardiac problems. My heart would be at like 180 for 3 days and just like explodes.
I think you can train. Well, I think you can get over the cardiac problems. I agree that like if either one of us just started doing this tomorrow,
yeah.
if we were somehow able to push through all the like physical pains in our legs and lungs and brains, probably it would eventually become a like physical heart problem.
Yeah.
But most like long distance runners run at their heart rate below like 140.
Sure.
And they like train so that their resting heart rate is 11 and their running rate is 110 or something. Like what my heart rate is right now.
Right,
sitting here with 102 beats per minute, just sitting on the couch talking about running. And that's like what the world champion probably has while they're running on day 50.
Okay, so next week we're starting like a fitness series.
I don't think we're the right influencers. There's enough influencers in the fitness world. I mean, there's enough influencers in the podcast world too, but we don't really influence anyone about anything except for Riley's Crunchy Corner. But I don't really want to influence this race. I think it's fine. I don't think there's like a problem with people doing it, but there's better ways to spend that kind of time, I think.
Like judging people for running.
Right. But I don't plan on spending 52 days doing it.
I think what we should do is we should go like set up on a street corner and just like get high fives and end up with like, you know, there's only like 13 people, I guess, but they're going around 5,600 times. So that's like tens of thousands of high fives.
I mean, the actual loop, the actual route is like something like half of a mile. It's 0.54 miles.
Okay.
So let's say you're running at a pretty conservative pace. That means you would get a high five like every 6 or 7 minutes.
Right.
For weeks.
Right.
That's a lot from 13 people.
From 13 people.
13 high fives, about 2 high fives a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
we could get that somewhere else.
Yeah, I think it would be more efficient if just like we high fived 13 times. Just like
that's it.
Just like did that every 45 seconds. Yeah. Although I wonder if like in the course of our whole lives, like if we had started doing that when we first became friends in 5th grade or whatever, if we had high fived every 45 seconds for our whole friendship, would we have an equal amount of high fives?
Well, it would be like 56,000 thereabouts high fives. So we have to have lived for more than 56,000 minutes, right?
But together is what I'm saying.
Oh.
But I guess another way of saying
24/7.
No. Just the time that we would have naturally spent together anyway.
Maybe. It's hard to tell.
I guess another way of thinking about that is like, have we spent the equivalent of 52 days together from 6 a.m. to midnight?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
All right. So we have the high five equivalent of the longest foot race in the world.
But they're not high mileage high fives.
No.
I don't think I've walked 3,600 miles in my life.
I think you have. Yeah. I think you'd be surprised.
Maybe. Well, that'll be one of the statistics once you do die.
Yeah.
Like comes up and it's like, you walked 10 billion steps or whatever.
I'm looking forward to those stats. That's going to be the best part of
Fitbit.
Fitbit Heaven Edition. Or like, I don't know, Fitbit transcendence. There's a marketing something or other in there. Anyway, if you want to run, go out and run. If you don't, you should probably still like raise your heart rate a little bit every once in a while.
By talking about running.
Right. It has gone down.
Good. The fear is passing.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to I Heard It on a Podcast. We've got new episodes every Monday, wherever you find podcasts, including YouTube.
Yeah. And if you'd like to connect with us, we're on Instagram and Threads. And you can also email us if you want to chat with us at hello@ihearditonapodcast.com.